looking to drink some mead.
Oh
yeah.
Oh
yeah. All right, Ryan, here you go.
That's so satisfying.
Pick me up.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you can
yeah.
Smell it.
Oh, it's my favorite stuff in the world.
Oh my god, dude! That's what that smells
So
like.
what this has in it that's different from normal? Do you want some?
Just a tiny bit. Thank you.
Is this has a little bit of hops
That's good.
and it has a little bit of hibiscus mixed in. This stuff is potent and amazing.
Good.
You know what it smells like? That smells like apple cider.
Wait, it smells like...
Technically,
We all gonna hold on.
Oh, yeah,
cheers.
give it cheers.
Rock and roll. Welcome
Sound
to
right.
episode 2.
family.
Yeah. Episode's about the family unit.
The unit.
Sidetrack real
Unit.
quick. This is when you mix stuff into meat, it's called a methylene.
Methicillin?
Methylene.
I'm gonna fuck that up in the future.
We just make meth.
I love meat, though.
Oh my
Some
god.
of my favorite stuff.
What?
Yeah.
That is
First
so
sip?
good.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a bite to
Oh,
it.
wow.
What?
That's way smoother than the last stuff
It's
you had.
it's a little on the expensive side. It's $30 a bottle.
Oh,
Spency's.
fuck.
but it's
Spency's.
I'll help you pay for one, but I ain't buying one myself. Shit.
well. I figured this one's on goodwill for the show.
Oh, thanks, man. I
So-
appreciate that.
Dude, it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you found a long lost
Said my
brother.
name.
Oh, fuck. At the beginning of every episode. We're going to have a beep at the beginning of every episode. because of that shit.
Absolutely.
The last episode, I say his name, like in the first 5 seconds.
Well, before we
I,
go
I,
into
I
it.
said it
after.
right when I started pouring. I was like, "Hey, you're up first."
Oh, I didn't even.
Oh, shit, I didn't even
Fuck.
think
Oh
about
my
that.
god. Okay, so
Wait,
before we
need
continue,
introductions, don't
so
we?
all right, so RyGuy here, just like in the last episode, one of your hosts, and then we
ShyGuy.
have ShyGuy as well, and then we have 2 of our guests joining us today. We have one going by Brace, and we have one going by Badger. So Brace, if you want to introduce yourself, just say
Hi,
something.
I'm Brace. You can call me BraceFace too. It's fine. It's fine.
Nice voice crack.
How long you been in the Xbox group? Because you're a newer member.
I'm a newer member, so
Yeah.
I'm 3 years? I've been playing with you guys. 3, 4? No, can't be that long.
It's around 3.
Well, after I moved out, about 3 years. So yeah.
Yeah, you've always been friends with RyGuy, though.
Yeah, RyGuy and I go back to kindergarten.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
basically kindergarten.
So yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Then we have
Badger.
Badger.
And I go by Badger, exclusively Badger. Never call me anything but Badger.
Swear to God.
But I go way back in the group.
Oh,
It's all right. Shy Guy.
Shy
You said
Guy.
Shy Guy. Yeah.
Shy Guy. Shy Guy and I go way back. We were
Oh, yeah.
old neighbors as kids, and we used to hang out all the time. And so we've been here together, hauling ass in this group for probably about 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Lived down the street from me, literally.
So
And shooting the shit out of each other with airsoft guns since I was like,
those were the days,
since I was
man.
like 11.
putting flares on each other.
Guys,
I surrender,
steps.
thwap.
yeah.
Like the trash can lids or whatever as shields, and you're popping each other.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? We weren't that intelligent.
Oh,
No, so
no helmets or nothing.
me and the other really nerdy neighborhood kid, all right, this was our arsenal. We had 2 of those really shitty plastic airsoft pistols, sidearms, and he had like a Daisy like Rider BB gun.
Nice.
Those are
Right.
the best.
Yeah, and he would set up behind a tree, and we would have to play advance on the tree. and he'd do his little Call of Duty flip out around the tree and shoot one of us in the leg or something. We didn't even have lives. If he shot us,
That's it.
we could keep going.
Oh.
Yeah, we could keep going, but we didn't. We never made it to the tree. And I had welts all over my body.
Yeah, you come home and your mom's like, "Oh,
yeah.
what happened?"
No,
What the fuck?
my parents thought it was fucking hilarious. My dad's just like, "You're wearing eye protection, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But the nerdy kid wasn't allowed to play with him anymore after that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fucked his shit up.
He done fucked his shit up. And I think he cried and went home anyway. So.
Poor little bastard.
Little bitch.
Little bastard.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that I remember hating was we all had, none of us had like the fancy air guns or anything like that. We all had spring-loaded airsoft guns.
Oh,
But
Got the bolt
an
back
old
every
friend of
time.
ours used to have this M4 replica.
What
The
is
fuck
that?
is that?
That's fine.
worried
Do you
later.
think
You think it's bad
Yeah.
enough to affect
No.
us too much? All right.
Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, starting right now, we just had some technical difficulties. This will be probably one of the only actual edits we have in the podcast ever, and it was just because
Yeah,
it was a loud
because
noise.
I thought I was
Yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah, we thought we had a gas leak for a moment.
I thought I was gonna fucking die.
Yeah, we're all right though. Back to what we were saying.
Yeah, we treasure ourselves.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to what we were saying, or to introductions real quick. Badger actually, I would say, founded the entire friend group on Xbox 360 Minecraft. And we did some stupid shit on Xbox 360
Stupid shit.
Minecraft, dude.
Yeah, the family.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah,
basically
that's-
turned into a family. A
Hence-
very fucked up, dysfunctional family. But
Oh, yeah.
Hey, if you're not inside the gate by nightfall, you're locked out for the city.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
That was the rule, man.
That was
Them's
the
the
rule.
rules.
But we were those fucking weirdos in Minecraft that like we made currency systems. Somebody owned a bank. He made
Das
an
Bank.
obsidian. Yeah, Das Bank. He made an obsidian storage so that people couldn't break into the bank or blow it up. Coltrane laid TNT throughout the sewer system underneath the city. Yes, we built a sewer system because we're fucking nerds.
You fucking nerds.
We had a gate that could actually open and close on its own. Like,
Was this
it
shit in
fucking
survival?
awesome. Oh yeah.
Was this before
hell
creative?
No. Oh, it was in
This was-
survival until the creative update.
No, it was in creative and then survival.
Oh yeah, we went on creative to build the wall, didn't we?
Yep.
And we had Yeah. What we would do is we'd make a blank slate city with 4 walls and really tall walls. And what we did was we made them so tall because we'd fill them with gravel. And if something blew up outside the wall or did damage, the gravel would fill the hole as it fell. And I still think that was cool. That was an idea actually. Oh fuck. That was Badger's idea.
There you go.
Every
Damn.
time.
Damn.
This is what's
we're
wrong.
fucking
We've
this
known
one
each other
up.
for so long. We don't call each other by our gamer tags.
I know.
Are
Unless
you,
you're
are you
like,
keeping score of who's
Oh.
sticking to script?
So he can edit it.
yeah, because
Not script. We do not have a script.
Every
Yeah, RyGuy writes down every time we use somebody's real name by accident because we got to keep this shit anonymous.
Yeah, because you boy.
Where does it say that in the script? Oh, okay. Shuffle some papers and make it sound like a fucking script.
Ain't got no script.
But yeah.
That actually transitions to the topic of today.
What did you say?
He said, "Did you get this in the handbook?"
No.
No.
Topic of the day. It's about family, and that is really what our group has become. It's become a bit of a family.
Mhm.
It's more like a brotherhood than anything. That's what I'd say it is.
Yeah.
For sure.
Agreed.
Primary attribute is definitely obnoxious.
Obnoxious and politics at the same time, which isn't
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's a weird
It's a weird
combination.
combination.
It's like that stinky cheese that you love, but you kind of hate to smell when you're not eating it. It's
that
Question
shit-
where it came from. It's like somebody's belly button lint or something like
Yeah.
that.
Shit
Oh,
tastes
God.
fire,
Yeah.
but it
God.
smells like
Yeah, you have just no
ass
idea.
cheeks.
It's like goat cheese, all right?
Yeah.
Dude, goat cheese? Okay.
Alright, don't hate on goat cheese.
Goat
Oh, it
cheese
smells
is-
bad, but it tastes good.
Goat cheese is awful. Come at me.
You don't like
You're
the
all-
way it tastes?
I am.
You don't like feta cheese?
No.
Dude, feta
Get the
cheese?
fuck out.
Bro, you've never had like feta cheese in a
No,
salad?
no.
Fucking flip the table.
I love feta cheese, man. So, okay, off topic real quick. I make these omelets, bro. All right, RyGuy, listen to me. Me and RyGuy got a problem of talking about food.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
make these omelets. What you put some you put some feta cheese in that omelet?
Put
Ham.
just ASMR.
Yeah. Feta cheese, ham, and you cut cherry tomatoes in half.
Oh,
Bake them
no.
inside of it. Oh
Fuck,
yeah,
I
add
hate
some
cherry-
chives.
Fuck cherry tomatoes.
That's called and
Sue me.
in the omelet when you mix it together, you don't just like add milk and eggs or something, right? You stir up the eggs and you add some sour cream.
Ooh.
You stir that shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fluffiest
Yeah.
fluffiest omelet ever, dude. And my mom calls them Greek omelets.
Oh, yeah.
Favorite fucking thing in the whole world, dude. I love them.
I'll tolerate the feta cheese, but you just had 2 strikes there in the whole ingredients lineup.
What?
You
What?
said cherry tomatoes and sour cream.
Why
You
don't
fuck
people like
off, dude.
sour cream?
The
Sour
sour
cream
cream
is
makes
awful.
it fluffy and amazing.
Sour cream ruins almost everything it touches.
Are you on my side with this,
depends.
RyGuy?
I love those omelets. I've had that before.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really good. I'm not a big tomato person anymore.
Fuck
Used
off.
To be. I
Yeah,
used to
I
be.
love tomatoes.
Okay.
All right, so BraceFace is with me.
Yeah,
Too
it's
much
fine.
acidity sometimes. It just ruins the whole dish.
I just hate
Yeah.
the flavor.
Yeah.
Ain't no room to
I
be
like the
picky,
little
man.
crunch, and then like when you get right past it, it goes. And
Oh yeah,
all
it
the
explodes.
juices come in
It
your
explodes.
mouth. That was
all right.
So on part
You
2
know-
of edits for this video,
No, we ain't
and all
editing
the
that. That
juices
stays
come
right
out.
there.
Great.
That stays right there.
No, you're taking that one wrong.
And that is how I wasn't born.
Fucking
Okay.
roll.
Next transition.
You found.
RyGuy, you found out you have a long lost brother.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. You know, it kind of just came out of the blue, you know? But it's funny, like, it kind of brings up just the whole topic of family. Like, you never know, like, who family will be. Like us here, like, there's, like, I can't remember the whole saying, but it's pretty much like, blood isn't always family, but family isn't always blood. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah.
I mean, that can be meshed up in a lot of ways, but,
Mhm.
like, you know, finding out that I have a brother after being alive for as long as I have, and then, you know, he was born in like 87 and he just found us by like complete chance. it's really cool, you know, and I'm glad I get to know him and everything. Like, it's kind of like a long lost friend in a way. Like, you never knew you had. It's like you immediately become best friends and you're trying to figure everything out about each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of chemistry there, though. There's
you can right away. He's like, you play Xbox? I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Dog. I'm like, dog. Let me tell you.
Well, that's what I wondered, dude, because, you know, I'm introverted as fuck. And a curmudgeon from last episode. I'm a fucking curmudgeon. Yeah.
Vocabulary.
Yeah, yeah. If a guy came out and said he was my brother and could even prove it, yeah, I don't fucking know you. You ain't allowed around my kids. That's how I would handle that situation. So I'm glad you guys are hitting it off, because I would be like, I don't fucking know you.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. You know? And to tie into my situation, that's why we decided to make today about family, because our Xbox group is very much so like a family, which is why we got the founder of the group here, Badger. RyGuy just found his long-lost brother, and my great-granddad just died. What's kind of fucked up about the great-granddad dying, I think he's a great guy. I got along with him great, but I didn't really know him very much. I saw him like maybe once or twice a year. Maybe, right? He grew to be super old, right? So I was kind of expecting it as well. I never really got to know him. I never really had a lot of conversation with him or anything. He's always lived super far away. And I decided to not go to his funeral because I felt like it was almost disrespectful to a certain extent, because it's like, I don't know you. The only thing that connects us is blood, and that's never been something that matters to me personally. The blood tie does not matter to me. Obviously, I'm not trying to talk down your long-lost brother situation.
Yeah.
If that works for you, that works for you.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
And there's been loads of situations where I either can't trust family members or people hold that kind of shit over my head, right? We're blood, we're family. You gotta tolerate this just because we're related.
I don't like that.
Me either. And that's why I'm super against that.
Yeah. It happens more often in older families. I run into it all the time when I go to Pennsylvania every so often to go see my mom's family, who obviously we're here. That's a 10-hour drive. That's not something that we do every month or every week or every day. That's maybe once a year for us. And most of those family are the Stones, who are my mom's family. My mom's dad, they're nowhere to be found. They're out in California. Nobody knows them except my mom and my sister. And they expect me to care about that. And
here, time out for a minute. Let's censor the names, but not the locations. That should be fine. Yeah. All right, you can continue.
Go ahead.
But it's one of those things where I've got 3 sects of family that live up there, only one of which I'm familiar with. And even then, I only get to see them once a year, twice a year, if it's a good year.
Is it like a homie reunion when you do see them?
Generally, yeah. I mean, I've been seeing them since I was maybe 2-3 years old. So and
they
know me, we know them, and
you're familiar.
When we spend time up there, we spend a week or two and help them out at their place, do what needs to because they're all old folks. None of them is below 60 years old up there. So any way that we can help them out when we go up there, we can. Things like cleaning out the barn, cleaning out the hunting shack at the top of the farm, just doing things around the farmhouse in general. Any way we can be useful.
There's more bonding opportunity there than I think in my situation for sure. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where when a relative of a Stone or family dies, that it's, I don't know them, but I'm expected to go, and we show up and it's like, hi, you saw me when I was just born 22 years ago. Yeah. It's like,
it's weird.
I guess
I got no connection there, and they're like, "Oh my God, you've grown so much." Thanks.
It's like, who are you?
Yeah. I think honestly, like family.
I don't even know who you are.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. Like family. Honestly, I think family comes into play. It's just how you treat each other, like how you treat another person.
Yeah. Right.
Like when you, just like all of us here, none of us are blood related. But like we treat each other as if we were family, we invite each other into our homes. We have meals together. We have a drink together. We do all of this shit,
and it goes further than that too.
I mean, and we'll go to different extents for each other, and that can be the same. I mean, I think that's what family is that bond.
I mean, there's family feuds too, but that doesn't mean it's not family. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, usually family kisses and makes up. Well, maybe not kisses, but they make up afterward.
Yeah, figure speech.
Hey, well, don't to shot down the idea.
But I think it goes without saying, at least for everybody in this room right now, I would probably die for anyone here.
Yep. I agree.
Only because the
there he is.
BraceFace.
There's the hater.
Titan and Coltrane.
I said everyone in this room.
They're not in the room.
Okay.
Yes, in this
Sorry.
room. Yeah.
fuck those guys.
We all go shoot together, so.
I was gonna say, y'all are all the same age. What are you talking about? And Baron?
I mean, I know him.
Yeah. I mean,
No, Baron's part of the family.
He's funny. He's
He
got a
is,
British
but
accent,
it'd be a little
so.
different if I could actually,
Meet him.
at least like wave hello in person.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
And that
don't
changes a lot. Like
I don't
it
even
changed
have
a
to
lot
shake
with
his
Lyric.
hand. I don't even have to shake his hand. I don't even have to hug him.
Mhm.
I just have to make eye contact in person and wave. And that to me
Yeah.
already strengthens the bond more than just talking to him online
Mhm.
on a computer program for 7-8 years.
So
Yeah.
for me personally, I don't need the real life interaction. Obviously, I appreciate it with you guys, but
Yeah.
to
I think
consider
it's
somebody part of my
an
family,
evolution of a relationship like that.
I don't need the in person because Heavy Gunner, for instance,
Mhm.
he's out in California. I've never met him in real life ever,
He's in the Army now. or
He's in the
Marine.
Marines,
He's in the
yeah.
Marines, yeah.
and I haven't talked to him in a few years. But he's my brother to this day, dude. We were best friends for a very long time, and it was great playing video games with him, and just we told each other everything, and he was my brother to a certain extent
Yeah.
growing up. And I get along with Baron really well too. It's not quite the same as Heavy Gunner, right? But I consider him part of the family. It's just he's in Britain, so he's across the pond. He hasn't had a chance to come over here and meet us yet, but he's been with us for 7 years, something like that.
2012, so
Yeah, it's
8
been
years.
8 years. Now.
8 years, yeah. And to me that classifies. If you're a constant for that long, that classifies. And I would say there's some members of the family we've lost along the way because they weren't with us for 7 years. Right?
Absolutely,
They were there from the beginning.
Let's
Yeah,
go back to Heavy Gunner. There, we lost him.
we lost Heavy
There was
Gunner.
a lot of people that kind of just dropped off.
We lost our
from the-
Canadian.
We lost Noble
Dark,
6.
Dark Game Master. We lost Noble 6. I talked to him
He's like
every
that
once in
long
a
lost
while.
cousin that comes in every
Yeah,
now and then. He's just like,
exactly.
hey guys, how you fucking doing?
Exactly.
All right, bye.
I talked to
Oh my god! Do
Yeah.
you remember Getting My Belly?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love that guy.
He disappeared from existence, dude. I don't know
I don't know what happened to that guy.
I don't think he even got to Xbox One with us. I think
No,
he was
he
only
didn't.
on 360.
Okay,
No.
that poses a question then.
Hmm.
So we're talking about family.
Yeah.
So people who disappear or people who don't show their face in a very long time and stop communication,
It's like they died.
but come back and say something. Are they still family?
Yes and no, and it's a
We've
very
had both.
specific yes and no.
Is family subjective?
Because
or
there are
objective? We can
people
go
who
there,
we've
too.
lost and have come back and are still good to us, and then there are people who we've lost and come back.
and they're
Game Master.
not the same person anymore.
Well, they're A, not the same person anymore, and B, they're hostile to
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
In Dark Game Master's case, he
He called all of us
separated so far along the political lines that we're all racists in his
And-
eyes.
Yeah. It's not that we don't accept other political values. We have a resident communist in our friend group.
Right.
We do. No matter how much I fucking disagree with him, but he's still family, right? In Dark Game Master's case, he just came in kind of throwing slurs at us
Yeah, that came
to a certain extent. He came out of nowhere, didn't make contact with any of us but Badger personally
For 5 years?
for 5 years. It took 5 years because he moved to PlayStation,
Right.
and he came back and just had a lot of shit to say to us, and it was only mean shit. And he was there from the beginning almost. Since I was in elementary school.
The last civil conversation I had with him was 2016. I was just starting college, 2 months in college. And I'm sitting there forging my new turf remake on Halo 5, and I say new at the time. And he joins my party, and we start talking for a little bit, catching up, and it's been a few years. And out of nowhere, he's asking me. He's Canadian too, by the way. I should specify.
He's
asking me which way I'm leaning.
a little bit though.
He's already asking me which way I'm leaning, Trump versus Hillary, and which party I'm going to vote for in the upcoming general election of 2016. And I tell him, well, I can't conscionably vote for Hillary, and I can't conscionably vote for a libertarian who's just a Democrat light.
Yeah,
Gary Johnson, by the way, for those who don't know. And so what I said is, straight up, I'm voting for Trump this time because I think he's a wild card, and I think he's the only candidate here with the potential to actually make changes to the way the system works. And right off the bat, I get labeled a racist, a xenophobe, and none of these issues are things that I would say that I'm particularly are my top 5. I'm not huge on immigration. I'm not huge on policing. These aren't my top 5 issues, things like that. And that's immediately the first assumption that he made.
Is that if
I
you're
was-
with them at all, you're the enemy.
Is that I was somehow just an enemy just by saying I'm voting Trump this time because my other options seem mediocre at best.
Well, this last election was an all-time high for certain groups of Democrats voting for Republicans.
Well, the funny thing is what that ended up doing to me is I'm going to be voting for him again.
Just out of spite.
Well, almost out of spite, but
And
also because I think that he's actually done a fairly tremendous job, borrowing from his vocabulary.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Accomplishing his agenda.
Going back to that with, like, as terms as, like, political parties go with your family and stuff like that, I think that's, like, one of the main reasons, like, people kind of isolate themselves, too, is because we focus too much on that stuff.
And then you get afraid of the conflict.
Yeah, and it's not part of, well, they're just, I'd see them at family reunions, so they don't really matter. We don't talk, except for maybe let's say hi to you on Facebook on your birthday or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
We're family. But I also, I kind of disagree with you, Shy Guy, because when you said, just because we're blood doesn't make us family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, in my case, I had parents that were both drug addicts.
Oh.
And I moved in with my grandparents when I was a freshman in high school. And from that, before that period, I didn't talk to my dad for 3 years. I basically, isolated him. He went to prison. There was a whole bunch of problems there. But he was there the day we went to court with my grandparents for custody.
Mm.
And in that moment, I had a little bit of resentment towards my dad. But in that instant, it was, all right, he's here now. And let's not, he still is my family. And I can't push further. And also, there's still a future. And I'm not going to hold, 14-year-old me and everything I went through with him, be pissed off for the rest of my life, against
Mm-hmm.
him. So I think that resentment is one of those things that everyone has to kind of move on from, like after a while, like especially, and maybe it just depends on like how close. Maybe if it's a second cousin or something, all right, that's not a big deal. But like in my case, that's my father. Like that needs to be somebody I need to have in my life. So,
Well, I guess it's definitely a human nature perception difference between the two of us, because I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I agree there's a certain point. What I believe on an ethical, personal level is if you surpass somebody, either morally or just in maturity or anything to a certain extent, eventually their proclivity to do wrong or whatever they did wrong to you, you got to be able to let go of.
Yeah.
It either needs to be resolved, you got to be able to let go, regardless of whether or not it's family. So I agree with that with you and I'm to a certain extent, and I'm glad you did that. Difference is though, if depending on the offense, direct household family members with me can get cut out.
really,
I could do it very easily, but Jordan Peterson says something. He mainly talks about it when it comes to his to raising kids.
Mhm.
Don't let your kids do stuff that's going to make you dislike them or hate them. That's literally what he says. And they're not my kids, but if I have a significant enough problem with direct family, I'm going to address the problem and make it so I don't hate them.
Yeah.
But I definitely have the proclivity to do it. I almost, because of the blood relation mentality, I almost have a higher proclivity to disown them easier out of the
Shame.
out of shame and out of feeling like I'm forced to be okay with something.
right.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like feeling like I don't have an option but to accept you makes it that much easier for me to do the opposite.
So my question is, like, how long have each of you gone without talking to, like, someone in your direct household? Like, in your case, I don't know if you have brothers or sisters or...
Like 4 days.
Real, okay. So,
Yeah.
and,
I can't go longer than 2 hours.
yeah, see.
Everyone in my house is moving.
I think you have way more communal stuff in your house too. Like
Well,
traditional times of day where you're supposed to be around each
and
other.
that may
talk
be that may also have a little bit to do with the way the house is designed too. It's very, very open concept. The living room and the upstairs hallway balcony combo
technically the same room.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, anyone who's in the living room can hear what me and my sister are doing in our rooms.
Or what
all the way
conversation you're
upstairs.
having or anything, yeah.
Nothing can happen in that house without somebody hearing it, which means that we're, for better or worse, fairly knit.
It might be better to a certain extent. I rarely ever get so pissed off at a direct family member that I won't talk to him for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was younger, I went through a crazy spurt of reclusive introversion, and I've gone almost a week without really associating with family, and that's just a personal proclivity of mine. I'm not like that very much anymore. A lot of that's because I just have shit to do.
Yeah,
right. But back then, dude, yeah. And if they really upset me or hurt me somehow, oh yeah, I can do that. There hasn't been very many situations where that happens though, because even with the fact that I'm able to get away with being so reclusive, my family really knows how to communicate.
Yeah.
Because if there's a problem, we will talk about it because can't fucking stand each other if we don't talk about it.
Right.
And my romantic relationship works like that to a certain extent now too. We've got a rule: you can't go to bed if you're angry with each other.
Well,
yeah, you gotta
that's
figure it
positive
out before you
reinforcement.
go to bed.
Yeah. I don't know. Like for me, like I was always raised to like love and help family regardless of what's going on or what they've done to you.
Mm.
But the older and older I've got, the harder and harder that's been to do.
Yeah.
Like I was always told, like, you know, if your sister needs money or your sister needs a hand, you should go help. You should help them regardless of how much shit they've given you.
Mm.
But for me, if that's a consistent basis where I'm just getting treated like a pile of dog shit, I'm not going to give back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just me maturing. I don't know if that's me just coming of age, or like me just saying, fuck you,
I'm really
treat me like a
happy you
real
said that.
person and stop doing that.
I'm really happy you said that because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I used to be, you guys all know, I used to be pretty diehard family, you know.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I was all about maintaining connections and things like that. But pretty much since I started college, it's been a downward slope of I tend to latch on to the people that I thought were closest to me, who treat me the best,
Mm-hmm.
who look out for me. And I make sure that in turn I can help support them if I need to, or basically just be helpful in any way that it be family in any way that I can to them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah, like you said, as you get older, you start focusing on the people who do you right.
Yeah.
And you start building on those, you build on that trust.
Yeah. For real. It's tough. Like, let's say, for example, I'll keep anonymity here, but like someone disappears for 3 years and then they come back expecting everyone to help them. They disappear. I mean, go out of town, don't text you, don't show up for family events, don't show up for funerals, don't show up for anything. And then they come back as a family member, in quotations, as a family member and say, hey, can you guys help me move in? Hey, can you guys help me get my stuff from this town that's out of state? Hey, can you guys help me get on my feet? When you disappear for 3 years or you disappear for a length of time and you come back without any word or any showing of care, it's hard. Like, it's so fucking hard for you to be like, yeah, you're still my family, even though after years of you just disappearing and not associating yourself with anybody, like what is that? Like, that's tough for me. Like, and then in that time or whatever it may be in the future, like, that shows me like the people who stay there, and regardless of where they're at in the country or whatever, if they still reach out to you or you reach out to them and they respond, then they're family.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of people that you can say like, oh, they moved to Colorado and they're like not, you know, they're not here. They don't talk as much, but every now and then they'll like message you on Facebook, or every now and then they'll like come to a family event and say something and still be a super open and loving person. But when they like disappear for so fucking long, yeah. And it's just like, how can I sit here and say you're still my family member when you weren't there for life?
That also kind of presents opportunity, though. Personal anecdote here. I had an uncle who came from 2 generations ago where my family was much wealthier. Was also much more irresponsible. My grandfather and his brother were 2 sides of a coin, right? They were both very wealthy. They both inherited a lot from my great-grandfather. And my grandfather decided to spend his money on the wiser side. He started up businesses, tried to run businesses, made his millions doing that. And the other one took his inheritance, put his hand in that for a little bit, and then thought that drugs were cool. I'll just get as high as I can for pretty much for life, because that's how much money he inherited.
Yeah, damn.
And he ended up going through a come to Jesus moment where he went sober from everything, and he ended up dying that way. But he died that way after he moved to Argentina and married somebody down there for the last 10 years of his life. But his son, my uncle, is the kid who never really unlearned that drug habit, never unlearned how to be a bad citizen. And he carried that through with him, through his inheritance, up until, well, he ran out of money. And lo and behold, he starts going on crime streaks in Minnesota. Winds up in jail for a few years with a daughter who barely knows him. Who he had with a crazy girl, by the way, too. So the daughter ends up, this is the fucked up part, the daughter hates the mother more than him.
Yeah, that's coming from a psychological background. That's normally how that works.
Right. And it gets even crazier. So after he gets out of prison, he's got pretty much nothing he can do. He's got no license. He's got nobody that will hire him. And so my dad hears about it. And this uncle has burned through about everybody else in the family that he can to try and get back on his feet. About 19 other people. Wow. And my dad, like a champ, steps up to the plate and says, well, we may be the last in the line, but we'll try it. And so they come all the way down from over to our house and stay for about a year and a half. And that was difficult. There were a lot of teething issues with the lifestyles and my dad having to basically recondition my uncle's fathering instincts.
Yeah. His own brother.
Yep.
Well, have cousin.
Oh, okay.
Different grandfathers.
Oh, right. Okay.
But
I remember this though.
But yeah, that was rough. And then they all my dad convinced his dad to pitch in and buy a house here in town.
Okay.
And they've managed to keep it. They've never missed a rent payment. They have jobs. One of them's a manager now.
Awesome.
The girlfriend's a manager. And is going to school. She's not missing days. She's the daughter.
Okay.
There's enough anonymity there. It doesn't
it's
matter.
only first name. It doesn't matter.
But the point is that they're doing well. And yeah, it sucks that they burnt through the goodwill of 19 other family members, but maybe you can be the one to make the difference there.
Yeah. Well,
it is an
worth it in the
opportunity.
end.
It's a double-sided coin.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, all coins are double-sided. That's a stupid
We know what you mean, yeah.
But as much as you want to hate the guy who disappears and walks out and fucks up in life, you may be the guy where the buck stops and he makes a turnaround, because maybe at that point he knows this is my last chance to get things right, and this is a chance to make a difference.
Yeah, and the same thing. Sorry.
No, go for it.
To second that, my dad, after getting out of prison, and after finally reconnecting this bond with him, he still after getting out of prison, he was doing meth for a long time, and you could physically see it in his face that he was changing, and it was like, Dad, we need you to get help. We need you to change or find something. Well, and there were so many nights crying there with him and just saying, like, we want you to change. We don't care how much it costs, where to go, whatever you need, kind of get. And eventually he did change. And I think that's in this similar situation as your dad took it. He, even though, his cousin fucked up so many times, he was like, I'm there for you. I'm here to catch you. And that was the same for my sister and I with my dad and, his parents as well, my grandparents. And saying, it doesn't matter how many times you fuck up, we're still going to be there to catch you. And I think that's also part of what family does. We just all, at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's really hard to agree with the decisions people are making. But when you can say, I hope this is the last time this is going to be a problem, but we want to see a change in you, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing with my dad. It may not have been as extreme, but when I was younger, my dad was he was an alcoholic. He had bipolar. It was undiagnosed bipolar, but we knew he had it. He was just all over the place. It was horrible. There were some serious moments where my dad was at his absolute worst. And I don't even think either of you guys have met him. You have, Brace, but no one. You probably knew my dad as the happy-go-lucky joke telling guy.
I knew your dad as the wears tidy whities in the front door and
with holes in it.
Talk about the neighbors. That was just him scratch his balls in the screen door. It didn't
that's
matter.
What he did.
Yeah.
That was him. That's what everybody remembers him as. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, they got divorced when I was in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. My dad was horrible. He would throw stuff at us. He would it was the last straw. He chased us outside with a hammer.
Oh,
it was bad.
Yeah.
I don't think he would ever do anything. I don't even think he realized what he was doing because he had a serious condition. And, after some time, I still went to visit my dad. I still went to see him. After the divorce, he was probably at his worst moments, but I still went and saw him because he was my dad. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's hard, in my family, people who disappear like that or people who do horrible shit. For some reason, I didn't do that with my dad. I gave him more time. My dad fixed himself tenfold. My dad he smoked cigarettes since he was 13 years old. He quit smoking when he was 45-ish. I don't remember. But he quit smoking. He quit drinking. He got a job. He got his own house. I mean, he literally did everything. Like, he fixed almost everything in his life. And then he got a lung condition and passed away a year later. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts because you look at it and you're like, you know, all the shit that he did when I was growing up, or all the shit that he did when he was growing up. Like, he went to jail, he did all this other stuff. But he redeemed himself in the later years of his life. He literally flipped himself 180. And I think, you know, whether you're a faithful person or not, like, he redeemed himself to God, and God's like, you know what? You redeemed yourself, let's go. And he took him. He's like, you finished your mission, you fixed yourself, and now it's time. And my dad passed away. But I think it was the best time for him to pass away because he literally fixed every single thing about himself, and it was perfect. Mm-hmm. And like, going back to the whole, story, it's like going back to the whole family thing. Like, you know, there's those moments that are just absolutely nuts. Like BraceFace was telling about his family and like my family too. There's some crazy things that have gone on. Yeah. But through thick and thin, family's there for you. Yeah. And it becomes very evident on the consistency, honestly. Like, the more and more people are there for you, regardless of what's going on and how many times something happens or how many times you fuck up, you know who family is because they're always there for you, regardless of what you're doing. Right. They'll help you. They'll help you fix shit. They'll help you come move a couch 100 times. Whatever it is, you know, family's there. They'll come help you chop wood. My guy. Yeah. What, you know, start something new.
Tree fall in his driveway.
Yeah, and then it's like those little things that just kind of build up over time that make you know that whoever that is, their family, they're reliable and they're trustworthy. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. But then again, like I was saying, like with someone who disappears and isn't consistent, it's hard. In the situation where somebody's doing something horrible, but they're still there to help, like they're still there to receive the help, while the other person who does something horrible and isn't there to receive the help is a completely different scenario, in my opinion. Family, someone who stays there through thick and thin. Someone who stops being family is someone who's just like, fuck you, and says the horrible things, like we talked about earlier with some of our friends. And that's my take, honestly.
I don't think that's necessarily a one-stop shop, though.
Right.
I mean, that has to be...
There's different scenarios.
There's a repeated offense thing, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's I think sometimes to be a responsible person, if somebody makes too many mistakes of a certain grade or a certain level, you might be a bad family member for not disowning them. Whether they... because they could hurt other family.
Right, yeah.
And possibly sometimes people need to...
Separation is the
you
only
see
way
it
sometimes.
in every hero myth story. Every single one. And I'm not trying to call inherent religions myths or anything. All right, but almost in every religious text on earth, the main character, whether it be Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, anybody, goes out into the wilderness. You all right? Went down the wrong way?
Yep.
He's got the Rona.
Yeah, he's having a hard time.
Oh, shit, Bart. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
They get exiled or go into exile themselves and go out into the wilderness and have to undergo a period of isolation to find themselves or to get their shit together. And sometimes being exiled from you see it in the fucking video game Fallout 1. You get exiled from the vault. And some people speculate it's because the vault overseer doesn't like you very much, or it's because they actually need you to go find this MacGuffin, the device, out in the wasteland to fix their water purification system. But you are exiled from the family to go on an adventure, to go on the hero's journey, right? And I mean, there's a reason that redemption arcs and character arcs are a thing at all, because people change. People who say people never change, it's just not true.
That shit pisses me off.
I believed it for a very long time, but people change, dude, heavily. That's why that shit's in our stories, in our books, in our movies and shit, because I mean, it's not always a 180. It's probably normally not a 180. But people change severely. I've seen it in my own life with my motivation, my anxiety problems, my political views especially.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I went from straight anarchist, dude, no rules, no police, who the fuck needs a government, to let's preserve the republic. let's make our country work. You can't clean the room.
Oh, that sounds so Clone Wars when you say
yeah, I know, it's funny. Well, it's because we're not a democracy, we're a republic.
Right, no. Well,
yeah.
At least we strive to be.
Yeah, exactly. I would much rather, with the character arc I've had in my own personal story, because Joe Rogan always says, be the main character in your own story, right? is
How can you not?
how can you? Oh, dude, no, that's what made me change in so many ways. It's what made me more motivated. It's why I've lost 100 pounds. It's why I started working out. It's why I'm trying to open up businesses, because I felt like I wasn't the main character in my own story.
Are you a bystander? Or are you the? Or yeah, like
Are-
are you
is the
a
story-
camera? Or are you the person
exactly.
living
Is
it?
the story in your perspective?
Yeah.
Or is it a
Is it
family
third
member?
person?
Is it
Yeah.
your friend? Is it? And that shit terrified me.
Mhm.
And I got this overwhelming feeling of I'm wasting time.
That's why I got this tattoo. I literally have a tattoo on my wrist that
Open
says
your
"Open
eyes.
your eyes."
Open your eyes.
Yeah. No, I mean this was huge for me because
Yeah.
after my dad passed away and after, my grandma as well 3 days before that, there were so many things that was going on in my life. I was going through a breakup. You could literally name it and I was probably going through it. Like it was fucking crazy. But I got this tattoo to symbolize the fact that I need to wake up and live my fucking life.
Yeah.
Because every day is ticking, every minute
Yeah.
is going by, every second, and you're not getting that shit back.
We only got one.
You only get
you
one.
got one.
I mean, regardless of if there's an afterlife or not, that's a different conversation.
Mm.
But you only get this one life on this earth.
As far as we know,
Exactly.
in terms of science, we know you only get one.
And,
Right.
I'll say this too. I'm not trying to brown nose you, but the last 3 years in particular, you have done a lot with yourself. The first thing you did was on the list was you met your physical fitness goals.
Hmm.
Then you started trying to
Fucking
hone in
jacked.
your timeliness. So you tried to start honing in your timeliness skills, which you did. You're always on time
Thank you.
every time. You never miss anything.
I didn't know that was a problem. Was he used to be late to shit?
No,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was,
Just wondering.
it's something that
No, I was.
Yeah,
I was.
something
yeah,
you focused
I was.
on? Okay.
Yeah.
That
it's
makes
something
sense.
he focused on. And then as you started basically trimming yourself up, not just physically but mentally, you started climbing the ladder, and you climbed it fast. And now you're arguably in a leadership position.
Yeah.
In your job,
Pretty much.
and
Yeah.
and it's basically one of the things, maybe not the position you've been chasing, but it's close to.
Yeah.
And that's directly born as a result of the hard work that you've put in first metaphorically cleaning up your room,
Yeah,
getting yourself
absolutely.
together.
Yeah.
And
You can't clean the
Open
world
your-
or
like,
community
literally, like,
until
open
you
your
clean
eyes.
yourself.
Honestly, like you're in
Open
your
your
room.
eyes.
Like, let's say you're in your room right now. Okay. Let's say whatever it is. And you wake up every single day and you just get up, put your clothes on, walk out the door.
I mean, I remember when you were a party animal
Yeah.
a couple years
Yeah,
Here's
ago.
the
he had his phase, man.
But that's the thing. Like you don't, it starts to become a monotonous thing where you just look at your room as your room. Like,
Mhm.
your bed's not made. You got clothes all over the fucking floor. You got whatever it is. You have all this shit everywhere.
And you wake up disappointed and you have to make a choice. Do
Yeah.
I live with this or do I fix this?
And you just I don't feel like doing all the work, so you just fucking continue to leave it the way it is.
Continue
Yeah.
living in a pigsty.
You're
until
not
you
living, you're
open
surviving
your
is
eyes.
what you are.
Yeah. Until you open your eyes and take a look at your actual situation, what you're living in the space that you're living in.
or situation in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't make it. Nothing
Good
will
pun.
happen. You have to open your eyes and look at your situation and say, "Fuck, this is not what I want.
Nope.
This is not me. This is not who I was a couple years ago. This is not who I want to be 5 years from now." And you look at your situation, you're like, "Shit, this needs to get fixed."
Yeah.
And when you start fixing that stuff, it starts to rub off on other people as well. There are some people in my life who did the same thing, like before me. Like they started doing this shit. They're like, I'm gonna get this job. I'm gonna do this, whatever. And it started to rub off on me. Like, damn, I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of sitting. I'm not making a difference with myself like I used to, or I'm not doing anything.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Seeing other people change, and like in your case, actually, you are like a huge inspiration for me because you took, initiative. You said, hey, me and ShyGuy, we're starting a podcast. Like we want to be doing more stuff with our lives, not just fucking dicking around.
Sitting at fucking
Yeah,
Walmart
and,
feeling
and,
like my
literally-
time is being wasted.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
Every-
I know. That's why this is a thing, because I felt
Every-
like I was drowning in
Yeah.
lost time. dude.
Yeah,
Everyone
drowning
in
in
our
mediocrity.
Xbox group
I know.
has changed. So, you starting a new position at work and you're fucking killing it. Like everybody has changed, but it's all
You say
inspired.
position, it's just grunt work.
Well, it is what it is.
It's
You're
a-
still
but
making
it's a new
good
job,
ass
though.
money, and it's a job.
It's a new job that's
And
going to
you're-
lead to
There's
something more.
there's a
Something more.
pathway as well.
You
and-
decided to make a change.
Yeah, and it's like this thing that everyone else says, hey, there's some change going on. What am I going to do to change for myself?
Yeah.
And, that's happened to me at work too. Like saying, I know what my potential is, so let's go chase it. And I think,
Yeah, you were just talking about you came up with a new job idea.
yeah, an
right?
offer or, a new position I created for myself, which is
Yeah,
like,
which is awesome.
yeah, I slap it on the desk and I'm like, here's, the big dick in the locker room, and everyone's just, just like, hey, here it is. And he's like, all right, we'll look at it and we'll see what happens. So,
Yeah.
and you don't know until you take those shots. But I think, And for a lot of that, us talking, we're a brotherhood, it's a family. And whether or not it's your direct family who you're living with in your home, those people are the ones that still there, like we were talking about earlier, just they're there to catch you, say this position goes south, whatever. And the guy says, you know what, really, I don't like your cockiness, or I don't like you coming into my office telling me what you want to be doing. So fuck you, we're letting you go.
He gets it.
Yeah. He could literally do that tomorrow if he wanted to, not that they're going to, but it's just knowing that you have other people's support, and you're seeing what else your family, everybody else is doing, and you're saying, how can I achieve that? So I think, your family is what pushes you to do great things too, because they're encouraging you to keep doing.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
You can push your family too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel your family are the people who teach you how to fish, not give you fish.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a big one. That's a big
good
one.
man.
Yeah, so
you get a pat on the back.
And tying into that too, also, I'm not trying to hijack your point.
Sorry.
I swear, I'm not trying to hijack your point.
No, you're good. But I'm not the interesting
the other part of that the other part we keep mentioning is inspiration, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important to differentiate that from envy or jealousy.
Or motivation.
Jealousy and envy they're so similar to inspiration, because obviously there are these things that you see in other people that you want for yourself.
Mm.
And what jealousy and envy are, that separates them from something as just plain old inspiration, is a lack of motivation to fulfill that ideal. And it's also unrealistic expectations for yourself as well.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Yep.
And it's important to recognize, too, as much as you might love your family member for doing one thing or another, you might admire them and want to be like them, if it comes down to something like, maybe they're a great sports player and they have the body to do that, they're 6'6" and they're 250 pounds.
Kind of like my long
and
lost
they're
brother,
a star football player, and you're 5'4" and you're maybe 150 pounds. That may not be in your wheelhouse, and that shouldn't stop you from enjoying life as you want to. But it's important to note that be realistic. I mean, family is there to teach you how to fish. They're there to teach you how to be happy in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're also there, if they're good to you, they're also there to teach you what your strengths are and how you should learn how to acknowledge that. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to you can't be a perfect clone of your brother.
Mm-hmm. No,
you can't.
I hate that shit. I hate when they're like, why aren't you like your brother or something like that. Yeah. That statement, like, I just want to punch somebody
insanely
in the face.
negative.
That's insanely
horrible.
negative. Yeah. Also, let somebody be unique in their own way.
For background, RyGuy has only known his brother for a little bit.
That has absolutely nothing to do with that.
I wanted to
like, those are completely unrelated things. But
did
like,
you get out MLG?
Yeah. Bro, he's pretty good from what I've heard.
But the other thing I was going to say is, we were talking about, your family teaches you how to fish.
Mm.
But at the same time, there's a point where we have to, backpedal from that and say, how can I create what I'm doing, as my own? Because I live a lot of my life in the shadows of my grandparents. Well, really in their footsteps. I look up to them, for being my caretakers, but also at the same time, I look to them for a lot of financial advice, a lot of, career advice. Where am I moving in my life? How can I be, to the point where they are? I look at them now and say, they're pretty successful. How do I become like that? But at the same time, there's a lot of choices I have to make that's just like on my own. Like, you and I, RyGuy, we were talking the other day, or 3 months ago, about getting a fucking car.
Yeah.
And my grandparents would be like, no, unless you can pay for a car in cash, fuck it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's just their philosophy. And, they live by the Dave Ramsey way. And, that's just not, some of those things you have to be, you got to take a risk.
It works, but does it work for you?
Yes. And that's exactly
it's huge.
Yeah. Because it's intelligent because you don't accumulate debt.
Yeah.
But it's unintelligent because our society is based off of credit.
Yeah.
And so there's a invisible currency we work with in the Western world.
Even then, you have to find... interesting to note, Dave Ramsey went bankrupt, by the way. But,
what?
Yeah.
When and how?
Even then,
it's kind of recent actually. But that's I'm not trying to derail.
Yeah, we want to.
No,
yeah.
It's just.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it is great. Like you guys are saying, it's a great way to live by, and they're doing well for themselves. But if you look about how much time it took them, my grandpa, he was a mechanic for his whole life. He came from the Netherlands and he moved here. And with like $20 in his pocket, it sounds like the typical, foreigner story.
I had $20 in my pocket.
Yeah, and I'm a million.
Back then,
then
$20 can afford groceries.
But he also, you're right. He never made more than $40,000 a year. Like, he worked the same job for 35, 40 years.
Yeah. He knows, it sounds like he knows how to save and invest.
Yeah, and that's exactly where it comes down to. And he had a lot of potential, but he never did a lot with it because he was happy with where he was at, and that's great for some people.
He didn't want to take the financial risk.
That's exactly it, and he was comfortable with the position he was in and said, that's it. But for me, it's like, now I'm debating on whether or not to switch jobs because, there's a lot of job security with where I'm at now. I've been really fortunate, and my grandparents are the ones to tell me, don't jump ship just yet, just wait it out. You got 2 more years of college. Well, it's like, I'm trying to gain experience and knowledge, and, obviously this isn't the choice you guys would make, but maybe this is the right choice for me.
There is a perfect way to describe that situation where you're making those decisions on whether you should take the risk or not.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were talking a while ago about our professors in college, of how sometimes you got to live your life like Bradford, but other times you got to live your life like Harry. What does that mean? Okay. We had those 2 classes together back to back. Bradford was the stingiest, like, don't spend a penny, save your money, don't do anything, save $10 a day, you'll be a millionaire, that type of shit. The other guy was like, go travel, go live your life, go do shit, go spend your money, go have a good time and make memories.
Those 2 classes back to back were the most counterintuitive.
It was so confusing.
I think that's the point.
But it's confusing. And the whole goal is that you have to have a balance of both. He was having the predicament of whether or not to listen to his grandparents and save his money, like the Bradford scenario, or himself saying, I want to get a car because I need something new, the Harry scenario. You have to make those decisions for yourself. Yes. Your family is there to guide you and give you guidance, but that doesn't mean that's the only answer. Mm-hmm. The whole point of seeking guidance from other people is to take that information, think about it, and figure out the logical reasoning behind it, and then make your decision on your own, because it's your life. You're the only one living your life, going back to like the whole situation of, are you living your life or are you watching it? Open your eyes. Like,
are you being given
you make the decision on what you want to do. You go to your mom for advice. You go to your dad for your advice. You go to your grandparents. You go to your boss, whoever, your best friend. All of those things should play a role into it. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. Right. And whether or not you have to take that risk or be conservative is your choice. And you need to figure that out.
And don't kill yourself over it either.
Yeah.
I mean, in the car scenario, I mean, there are tons of cars out there for you to pick from. Mm-hmm. All sorts of different brands, makes, models. Whatever, and buying a new car may be the correct decision for you.
Well, right? And in my case, it was. I drove an 03 Impala, and now I drive a 2019 Impala. But the old Impala, not even a week later, we gave it to my dad, and the fucking exhaust fell off.
And that's exactly,
that was like, damn, that was the perfect time.
And that's exactly what I was getting at, is that you may make the right decision on paper, but maybe fate has it that you buy a lemon. Mm-hmm. Luck is a thing, and it can... just because you get unlucky making a decision doesn't mean that it was necessarily the wrong decision, and you shouldn't kill yourself, beat yourself up over it. Yeah. Be okay with making that same decision again.
Mm-hmm. You mean if you make the mistake?
Sorry to interrupt. I have to pee, so RyGuy will take a slight...
Yeah.
I gotta pee so fucking bad, dude. I'm about to die.
Again, specifically in that car scenario, that's not necessarily a mistake. I mean, he needs new wheels, right? Yeah. His 03 Impala, for example, is having problems, and it costs more to fix those than it does to get rid of it and buy a new car. And at that point, if you buy a lemon by accident, there's no way that you could, unless you go and drive that car every day for 2 weeks. By the way, no dealer is going to let you do that. You won't know.
Yeah.
And you can't...
It's a risk.
You can't fault yourself for that.
Yeah, no, well, it's that stupid fucking elementary school poster you see on a regular basis. You miss all the shots you don't take.
Oh, yeah.
I fucking hate that shit, but it's true.
Yeah, and then what people do is they'll miss the shot that they took and be like, well, I shouldn't have taken it.
Yeah,
well, no, you should
either recoup the damage, fix the damage, and then take the shot again.
Yeah.
That's part of the growth mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you don't take risks, you're never going to advance in this world. You're just going to...
Yeah, your car isn't for fun, though.
No.
It serves a purpose. It's a tool.
It's a very conservative investment.
It's a fucking four-door sedan. I didn't go out there and buy a Mustang and be like, hell yeah, buddy.
You went and got a tool so you could get to and from your job, and so that you could live your life. And it's. I mean, where we live. I'm not going to say where we live for obvious reasons, but
in the wintertime, fuck the snow here.
Bro, you can't walk anywhere.
Yeah.
You can't walk anywhere in public transportation. There's so much distance that public transportation's unreliable. No. Therefore, you gotta you gotta get a car. You have to get a car. When you turn 16, you better have a car. That's kind of how our society in this area works. Yeah. To a certain extent. And back to family. The people I consider family are people I admire. Now, obviously, I don't have to admire you off the back. I don't have to admire you right off the bat.
Right.
Because, I mean, then how the fuck am I ever going to add new members to my family, right?
Yeah.
But, one sec.
Cluck.
Drinking some agua. Yeah.
Some agua.
It's people you admire. For instance, I'm not a very faithful individual anymore like I used to be.
Spiritual is the word you're looking for. When you say faithful, people are looking at your relationship like romantic relationship.
Fuck your girlfriend,
shit,
dude. Yeah,
think about that.
Yeah, she doesn't matter. You cheat on her.
Say
Say
spiritual.
very well.
Say spiritual.
Well, I'm a very spiritual person. It's I just don't believe whatever powers dictate the universe.
Pious. You're not a pious person.
Yeah, whatever.
Howdy, Rickies.
Howdy, man.
I got more waters. It's hot as fuck in here, not gonna lie.
That's
Oh, yeah,
a lot
it
of
is.
Like,
freaking
thanks,
water.
man.
It's like 90-something degrees outside.
Oh,
so
yeah.
feel good. Anyway, sorry, I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
bottles.
it's
I
good.
can tell the bottle's deformed right there.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Bro, it's
Is
squishy.
that safe to drink? It's got
Yeah.
plastic in it.
So,
Well,
it doesn't have
fine.
plastic in it. It's just bending.
be a man.
Okay, Ricky.
What I was saying though, I believe whatever power there is, and because I look at it from a really scientific perspective, it could be anything. The last podcast episode, I said, "What if the universe started because a giant being fucked the Milky Way?" Like that's possible. That's possible.
Oh, yeah.
Are you implying the Milky Way is a celestial?
or that the Milky Way is just a big vagina? Yeah, a little bit.
That's a good time, Ricky.
Oh,
Is that what black holes are?
Oh, fuck.
Hey!
The assholes of the universe?
Yeah. My
Fuck.
So my whole point was I don't think whatever divine being controls reality has very hands-on interaction with us, very much at all. So faith aside, character arc, redemption story, and shit aside, the people I consider family are people I admire, and I admire my dad a lot. My dad is the one who taught me when to take necessary risks. He's the one who taught me when to not take. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Your dad's a fucking...
Well, back when I was religious, back when I believed God had a pretty hands-on thing, when I had to think of like Jesus, the most virtuous or the most ethical person, my dad came to mind for a really long time. I told him that, and he was flattered as fuck. He's like, "Don't do that; it's sacrilege."
I'm not Jesus.
Because yeah, he's more Christian spiritual than I am now. We actually disagree on that a lot. But part of the reason I admire him is because the way he taught me how to fish was growing up. I didn't have to believe what he believed. Ever. Now, he'd want to steer me that way, but it was never brainwashing, and it was never, in this house we believe this.
Yeah.
Never. It's always been a free-range kind of thing.
I love
Not
that.
Yeah, not that I can go do whatever the fuck I want. But I can sure say and believe whatever I want. He's gonna argue with me about it, and he's going to challenge
He should.
some of those beliefs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but if he can't change my mind, he blames himself. He doesn't blame me.
Yep.
And we disagree on a lot of stuff. We disagree on a lot of politics. We disagree on religion, especially because I come from a more Catholic family, and he believes God has a direct hand in existence and in life and stuff. And I think it's hands off. I think he started the chemical reaction at the beginning of everything, at the beginning of time, and hasn't touched things since. Exactly. I think he just snapped shit into existence. And that's about it.
He's like, you know what? I'm gonna let this shit go.
Yeah.
Let it ride out.
Exactly. And
When
I
you
think-
die, you come see me, dog.
To an extent, I think that's kind of how that works, but there's definitely some uncanny things that happen. We've all had those moments.
I believe in coincidence.
Oh, but and see, that's
sure,
exact
that-
opposite as me. Like, I never.
Coincidence can happen. I guarantee it. There are certain things that are just like, oh, well,
Well,
yeah.
I think
Whatever.
everybody at this table believes God has a more hands-on approach than I do, personally.
Depends.
But it's one of
That's
those...
why we need a theological episode.
Well, I mean, it's one
Coming
of those
up
things
soon.
where,
Oh,
well, like I think I told you guys this story before. When I was in college, I biked everywhere. I didn't have a car. I got hit twice. The first time, I got barely tapped by a car who was pulling up to the edge of the driveway out of the apartment complex.
Yeah.
Threw the chain off my bike, fucked up the gear mechanisms, everything. I mean, I had at least a $150, $200 repair. It was a nice bike, by the way. It was a Trek F2.
I don't know what that means, but all right.
It was a $500 bike.
Fucking
It was a
golden gilded chain with the
It was a $500 bike.
Oh shit! All
It
right.
was nice. But yeah, just that light tap fucked up the entire thing. Right, and the frame was permanently bent 5 degrees.
Wow.
But a year later, I'm biking back from class full speed down the sidewalk. I'm just trying to get back to my apartment so I can go do my homework. And this car speeds down, pulls in front of me to get into this bank, and I can't possibly stop in time. So I end up hitting it. I hit it right in the back tire. I fly over the trunk.
Whoa.
I'm airborne at this point. My bike just stops dead.
You told me the story. I remember. Yeah.
And I land on the ground, stomach and face first. And I pick myself up, and the only thing wrong with me is a damn scrape on my left cheek. Not even like dripping blood. It's just a minor scrape.
Very fortunate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nothing broken. The bike's not even damaged. Not a scratch. Not
That's
even a scratch
crazy.
on her car.
Now, see, I would.
And
I
it's
would
one of those
believe-
moments where I'm sitting here shell shocked, just grabbing my face, just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Make sure
What
you got all your
happened?
teeth and
Now, if you look at the physics,
and she comes running out of her car screaming like, oh my God, here's my insurance. Are you okay? And I'm sitting here just like, yeah,
I'm fucking fine.
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking, because I should be dead.
Yeah.
I should be dead.
Mm.
Or at least I should be broken and not being able. I was thankful to get up and dust myself off.
So
And
I
it's one of
believe
those
you were really
moments.
lucky.
Yeah, you might believe that's luck. I believe that's like God literally was like, shield.
So
he threw
if
down a
you-
mattress on the ground for you to land on. Yeah.
Exactly. So
You tried.
the way I
Yes.
interpret that,
Okay.
the way I interpret that is you got lucky. Now, if it was divine intervention, it would have bent your bike's damage back to its original state. And it would have been like fix. And that's yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Enjoy.
With
You
family and stuff, the people who want to see you succeed the most,
Mhm.
the people who teach you how to fish the most, the people who lie awake at night scared that you're not prepared yet, and so the most resentment I have towards my parents is because they made me play football for like almost 10 years, I'd say, and I hated it. I hated it, man. And
What was it that they saw in football?
well, it was opportunity. I went to college for it for a year. And that's when I took my risk. I came back home.
Mhm.
I came back to go to school with my girlfriend here at a local college. I came back to take my own risks. I'm taking two somewhat financial risks, one way less than the other, with these enterprises I'm trying to start. I changed my major. I changed everything because I felt like I was wasting time. And in my psychology major, even though the subject absolutely fucking fascinates me, it doesn't make any money.
Right.
Unless I'm like a super famous
Be a shrink.
person, like
Unless
Jordan
you're the
Peterson
next
or
Jordan
something.
Peterson.
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking money.
And I'm not
And-
going to sit here and say that that's not possible either. You may well grow to be that, but
Not right now, fuck.
that's
Fuck.
and that's entirely dependent both on your hard work and maybe a little bit of luck.
I mean, if anybody has luck, it's me. But I'm not going to bank my whole future off of being lucky.
Well, that's the one thing
Right.
about successful people that I hear some people blame for their success too much, and I hear other people discredit entirely. It's all hard
Mhm.
work. There is a little bit of luck in success.
I think it's a little bit of both.
it's
yeah.
it's like
There's a lot
gardening.
of cards that have to
It's
line
like
up.
gardening. You have to plant the seed. You have to actually till the soil. You have to make sure it's watered. You have to make sure the soil has enough nutrients to nurture the seed as it grows. That's the hard work part.
Mm.
But there's luck there too. I mean, what if one day a tornado decides to touch down in your garden?
Yeah. You die.
That's bad luck. You
Yeah,
lose. You lose your
ultimately,
investment.
Absolutely. And like,
Metaphorically. And sometimes it's the opposite.
Mm.
Maybe you live in a terrible region. You plant a seed, it grows. Nothing hits it. You still did the hard work.
Yeah.
You also got lucky.
Now, do you think that's a coincidence, or do you think that's a sign?
Coincidence.
Like, let's say you want to be a fucking badass gardener. You want to be the next, like, whoever's good in gardening.
Mm.
Okay.
Well, I'm just taking gardening here as a metaphor for,
Right.
for like business, for example. If you
Right.
found a business, small business, you managed to grow that into a regional business, and then all of a sudden now you're franchising.
well,
It kind of
That
ties
has
into
that
it.
has
Don't-
more to do with the fact that
yeah.
you probably have the right amount of intelligence and the right amount of personability to get that done. There's still luck. Don't get me wrong. Maybe you happen to find the right customer who raved to like 60 different friends.
Mm.
and that took your business off.
Well, and also in the business world, they'll also teach you it's not so much about what you know, it's who you know.
It's who you know.
It's,
exactly.
And that's absolutely the truth. And, there's my girlfriend, she's going into insurance, and her parents just happen to own an insurance company, and she's been really fortunate that she can step right from high school into a position where she can literally be starting her dream job. And, a lot of people will look at her and go, wow, that's a spoiled brat because, she gets to have, whatever. But it's also, some people are set up, their cards are
played.
Yeah, they're stacked better than others, and that's okay. It's not.
Is it not a parent's right?
Yeah,
to try to provide,
and that's the whole thing. And I think
that should be a parent's goal,
and that's exactly a parent's goal is to hope that their children are going to do better than themselves. And I think that should be every parent's goal, would it not? Like, who would say, "I want my kid to be a fucking deadbeat"?
I hate when parents are envious too.
Yeah,
there's so many things of their kids. Like, you make more money than
you're
me.
only successful because of what I did for you. You need to pay it back.
Well, yeah. When Jordan Peterson talks about in some of his lectures, when he talks about cleaning your room, he warns that certain parts of your personal life will get easier when you clean your room, but it'll attract negative attention.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He says it immediately. If you start cleaning your room and you're living in hell, like say you've got really low opportunity, you live in really low income, you live with drug addicts, or God knows what else, if you get your shit together, they're like fucking hyenas moving in on a corpse to eat, dude. Yeah. It's awful, and they hate it. I saw it with my ex-girlfriend. Dude, if anything went good for her ever, her mother would demean her. She'd call her fat. She'd tell her she didn't have any friends. It was just the most inherent mental, verbal abuse I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And it was inherently out of jealousy. Yeah. And it was awful. It's horrible. Your parent does not want... Another reason why I don't feel blood equals family. Because your parents aren't supposed to compete with you. That's for sure. And also, your parent, they don't have to be your friend or have your best interest in mind. They don't have to. They don't have to at all. If you get that, you're lucky. Yeah. You're absolutely lucky.
No, that's a good question, though. Can parents be your friend? Because I've always heard I can either be your mom or I can be your friend. Mm. And to some degree, I believe that's true because, for me, it was my mom could never be my friend. I just don't get along with her like that. Mm. But at the same time, I also haven't known her to be a great mother figure in my life, too. So it's, shit, how do I pick, which one she is for me? And I would hope she would just want to be my mother, but some days she'll act like she's my friend with me and just doesn't fly like that,
Yeah. Well, normally the problem is on the other end of the spectrum. Normally parents don't want to be friends with their kids. Yeah. But that's interesting that you brought up that dynamic that way. When I was younger, when I lacked motivation, when I really didn't have my shit together, my dad wanted to be my friend and couldn't. He had to put on a tough love facade for a long time because I didn't have my shit together. And now I'd say we're friends. And I think that's kind of the goal of a parent.
And I think your dad and my dad have that in common. Yeah. I used to...
For sure.
My dad used to still beat me for underperforming or being a dipshit. Pretty much right up until high school.
Do you want to rephrase beat?
I used to get spanked with a belt, things like that.
Maybe not.
Solid.
Maybe not. Good thing this is anonymous.
Solid flip flop, things like that. But that was almost always because I was being a shithead.
Oh, you deserved it then.
And I did deserve it. And then I go to. I mean, he didn't beat me when I was in public high school, but when I was there was an immediate kind of tone change. I came home my first weekend after going through boot camp.
Is there a physical boot camp at that?
No. I mean, there's some physicality to it, but it's not like military.
Oh, okay.
It's not military.
So, for those listening, he went to a military academy. We're going to bleep out the name, though, for anonymous reasons.
But it's one of those things where I went there for just 2 months. Came back for my first weekend just for leave. Mm-hmm. And it was like I don't know how else to describe it other than a page turn in a book.
Did he treat you like a man?
He treated me like a man immediately.
Yeah.
I came home and I was like, Dad, I just want to relax for a little bit. And he's like, you know what? You and I need to have a beer. You and I need to play some games. And you and I can talk about basically where you want where you want to go in life and how I can help you get there. And yeah, we'll shoot the shit along the way while we're doing that. Yeah. And that felt at the time, at least, like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I realized that, like, yeah, now it's just the next chapter in the book. You know, I need to start gearing up and thinking about all these things that he's talking about.
Yeah.
And then I graduated high school, and then that expanded for, well, that was when I actually got to see my parents as real people. You know, not as just, they're my parents. They're on another level now. These were just people that I live with in my house now.
For a long time growing up, your parents are the divine entities in your life.
They were.
They make the weather form. They control what happens. It's everything.
And then you learn all the hidden secrets, and then it's like, well, okay. They make this much. They possess these work habits. They possess these drug habits. You know, my mom smokes. My dad drinks, for example.
Mm.
They both drink to a little bit, but my dad's definitely the worst offender there. And they both have their own coping mechanisms. And then that light, you start to see your parents as real human beings.
Yeah.
Right? They're no longer just your parents, but they're human.
And they're definitely, and you can see when they make mistakes.
You can see when they make mistakes now more than you can when you're a kid. And it smarts when you see that too, because then you feel a little bit of disappointment because they're the people that taught you to make the better decisions, and they're maybe not always making those.
Yeah, well, you see the hypocrisy, and that's good because you see that they're human.
Right.
So
it's also a learning experience too.
Well, my parents my entire life always told me, don't smoke cigarettes, it'll ruin your life. They've been avid smokers almost their whole life. They've been on and off a lot in their lately.
Yeah, my mom was the same way.
Yeah, they're on
still smokes.
Yeah, they're on and off a lot, and they both went cold turkey for like almost a year, and they're back on it again recently. And I'm pretty desensitized to cigarettes. Like, I know it's super physically unhealthy, but mentally, because there's such a small change, especially when somebody has a tolerance to it, I care so much more about mental effects from drugs than I do about physical, because I'm real libertarian that way. So it's like, if it's your body, do what you want with it, kind of thing. But when you have mental effects, it's a sign of weakness, and I don't think it should be illegal if there's mental effects. But I might disrespect you. I might not take you seriously. People who have to live on marijuana and pot, family is really what I'm talking about now. It's or on alcohol even. It's like,
in that respect, I think alcohol is way worse. I mean,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It can.
Potheads piss me off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny. I've smoked a few times in my own life, but there's an attitude. There's an attitude difference between a heavy drinker and a heavy smoker, and it's usually that the heavy smokers can't do without smoking X amount of times a day to maintain normality, whereas the drinker can wait all the way up until he's behind closed doors and out of sight. Yeah. And still usually, depending on how bad his habit is, still show up to work functional the next day.
That is a generalization. Obviously, there are always outliers.
Right.
To that, there are people who are so dysfunctionally drunk all the time they can't do anything. But I come from a family of functional drunks.
Same.
Yeah, right. not all of
us.
We're
Scotch-Irish. That should tell you enough.
Yeah, it just happens that way. And add German to the equation, too, and now we're beer snobs at the same time.
Yeah, we're having a good time. Yeah. But, no, and it's kind of crazy how smoking and drinking have become, like, different type of, like a social norm now, because, you know, drinking now, I mean, it's cool to have a beer with your buddy, right?
It's very socially acceptable, but smoking is so frowned upon.
And just literally like the early 2000s, it was like everybody, you know, high schoolers, everybody was smoking cigarettes then. But even in the last like 15 years, you've seen people, all the smoking campaigns, like, you know, this is terrible. This is what your lungs look like, you know, 2 years before smoking, and this is, you know, your lungs 2 years after, and it's literally black. Like, you just can't.
I can't tell the difference between your left lung and a piece of char.
Yeah, like it's true. But we don't do that kind of stuff for drinking, and I don't know.
I think we do.
You think so? Because
I think enough. The other thing too is I think enough kids come from families that have drunks.
Yeah, and
that deter them from that.
But see, that's also been, you know, you always hear about like the story of you know fathers from like the 50s. You know, they didn't have a father figure, and if they were this drunk, you know, Catholic man that would come home and, you know, he beat his kids around or whatever, and that was my dad. And, you know, there were 9 kids, so it didn't matter. You know, I was just another kid of his. So.
Yeah, I mean, so the birth rates have gone down a lot in families, especially in first world Western countries.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I'd say one good thing that actually comes from that, parents got less eggs in the basket.
Yeah, they can focus on
kids matter
development
more now, yeah, for sure.
I think that's also a weakness, too.
It could be both.
Well, the
you
kid
get
no
more
longer-
coddled kids now.
Well, yeah, the kid no longer has to learn right off the bat, I need to do this for myself so that I can get what I want.
Or attention.
You have to learn less because the parent has to
Their attention.
ends up spoon feeding you more.
I mean, a problem I have from my perspective is I always view everything from a very individualistic perspective. That doesn't mean I can't empathize and sympathize with people, but my initial look at everything is from my perspective. And actually, that's where a lot of my empathy and sympathy comes from. Is because if I was in your shoes, what would I think? That comes to me a lot when I think about things. And if my dad didn't go through an absolute fucking shit show with me when I was growing up, because I was an emotional shit show, and he didn't even do anything wrong. like he never beat me. He never did anything to me. He always I was always a free range cool kid, and I don't know. I developed it might have been because of football, and that's not inherently a bad parent thing to do. To make your kids play sports, you know, like I can't resent them that much.
You have to kind of get them out of
there.
there. You have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
my mom never did that to me, but I learned it myself.
Did it yourself? Yeah.
I learned it myself to kind of, and it wasn't sports, it wasn't athletic, it wasn't anything like that you would normally do to a kid. It was me saying, I'm going to do this entrepreneurship thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go into a program that teaches me business. And I did that on my own decision. And I pushed myself out of my comfort zone.
And
but whether your parents help you do that, or whether you do it, it's important that you do it.
That's why military school was so formative, because my parents wouldn't do it to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it to me.
My mom didn't want to because her dad did it to her.
Well, I showed up to military school, and they were like, well, you will play a sport, or you will work out on your own. And we will watch you, and make you, and if you refuse, we will punish you. And I was like, well, okay, sports sounds like sports.
Well, actually,
fencing it is.
What fencing and rowing, and I get to rowing was really where I had to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Dude got them thighs.
Where I basically got on the machine and I was like, this fucking sucks. This hurts. I want off. And the coach was like, no,
earn it.
You got to finish. And he didn't let me off the machine until I finished it. And I had a terrible time my first day, but it was a powerful lesson. And basically, you start something, you finish it, and you keep going. You can't just give up.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to just give up and be successful.
Sometimes you got to fight back, though.
There's fighting back, and then there's fighting back over nothing.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. Mine, I feel like mine was different because mine was a lifestyle I didn't want to proprietary. I had to take a risk and quit collegiate football to get the life I want and the things I'm ambitious for. My father lets me speak my mind, and that's part of the reason why I admire him more than anything. And I'm sure he fucking hates it, dude. every fucking day when I come
know your
home,
dad. He probably sits there on the couch.
He
like,
does.
Goddamn commie.
He does. Not his couch.
Fucking piece
Not
of
his couch.
shit.
His recliner.
Oh, the lazy boy. He
sits in
pulls
his-
the chair up.
Oh yeah.
He's in
lazy
his
boy.
boxer
Now
shorts.
that
going,
he's,
here we go.
now that he's smoking too, he's probably got the stogie and the whiskey. And it's just
Yeah. He's just sitting there. Well, actually, so they don't smoke in the house, which I respect a little bit.
Same.
Really, considering all the work he's done at remodeling your house, have you seen what smoke does to walls?
Have you seen my old house? Probably not, dude. It was pretty bad.
When I was in construction, there was a house we had to actually wash the walls by hand.
shit's gross.
Yellow.
Because
it's gross.
You wipe it down and like literally it's like spotless white, and then all the rest of the wall is now this other color, and you were like, "Wow, that wasn't white."
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this is
nasty.
It's
It's
fucking
literally
gross.
This is
nasty.
how it works.
For all of you listeners, no, I'm not going to say that. Don't smoke in your houses.
So this is how it works now. I'll come home from work, or now I'm going to be coming home from school, and he knows when it's coming because we sit and talk like really hardcore philosophy. And now I'm addicted to it all the time, and it sucks. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to start the podcast, because like I'm so addicted to talking about deep conversation all the time. I can't stop ever. And it's how I have fun, and a lot of people consider that really boring. I have this memory of sitting in my junior year math class in high school. And this girl I barely knew, she heard me talking to my friend from football about like politics or something deep. She just turns around and looks at me and I'm like, what's up? How can I help you? And she's just like, you'd be a lot of fun on acid. That's all she said. And I'm like, fuck, okay. But if he's outside having a cigarette, I'll come out. I'll sit in the rocking chair.
You ever had one?
A cigarette?
Yeah.
No, never. I never will.
It's
Never will.
It's not. I don't know why it's so hyped up to be something. It's not.
It's not that.
My first venture was cigars, and that was a hoot.
Oh, I thought
those are fun.
I
that
tried
was-
cigars. Yeah.
That was a whole lot of morning sickness.
Oh God,
No.
it's bad.
But
Did you
for-
inhale?
Probably did.
I inhale.
But I
smoke cigars.
But I
Yeah,
I did.
hardcore.
Well, what killed me is that I never got a high. I never got a buzz.
Dude, I literally
Yeah, cigars
couldn't move
don't
out of
give
my
you a
chair
buzz.
when
I never
when
got
had that.
anything except it smelled great when we snuck up onto the roof of the barracks at night.
Yeah, they smell
Yeah.
good and they taste good if you licorice cigars.
Yes.
No,
the
no,
tastiest
no.
fucking thing in the
hold on,
world.
hold
I
on.
love them. My grandpa smokes those all day long, and I love them.
Now, yeah.
What I was saying though is, if he's out having a cigarette, I'll sit in a rocking chair and I'll just sit there and rock for a minute, and he's just. I see him light another cigarette because he knows I'm about to just fucking. I'm about to
Dad.
lay it down. I'll be like, you know what, Dad? And he'll just sit there and be like, oh, fuck. Here we go. Or he'll be sitting in his recliner with a cup of coffee. His thing is coffee. Our whole household, our thing is coffee.
Coffee's great. Coffee's
I'll
life.
sit.
Yeah.
It's just, he knows it's coming.
That's what we had, 3 in the
I'll be
morning.
silent for like a solid minute and a half as I'm trying to articulate shit I'm about to say. Right? And we just, oh my god.
The pile of water bottles. There
Yes, a
are
little
1,
bit.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
So
7,
many
9 water bottles.
Fuck.
Can we make it 10?
For 4 people. So it was a detriment. It was a good thing. I love his parenting style because he taught me how to think for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he lets me disagree with him is amazing. And I'm definitely going to raise my kids that way. For sure. 100%. And that's part of the reason why blood doesn't matter. So my mom's side of the family, I don't see them as often. And they're very liberal. And it's not that I can't talk to people with liberal views. I absolutely can. Actually, a lot of my social views are heavily liberal. It's because of my social views I consider myself a moderate as of late. I just have super libertarian economic and judicial views. And
Well, in reference to judicial views, that would be called originalism.
originalism?
Originalism. Following and interpreting the law as it's written.
Oh, yeah, the Constitution is how I think it should be followed.
Yeah.
And my mother's side of the family, they don't listen. It's like, oh, you're younger, your opinion doesn't exist. It's like it's as if I'm not a person. Like I can't think for myself or something. It's like even if I do make a fucking mistake with my thought process, you should still listen to it.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe it. Fuck. And argue it. But you gotta at least hear it out.
Yeah, and there's a problem with narcissism, and my girlfriend's dad is actually probably the biggest proponent of that, and he
Super
yes,
similar problem.
and if you go into the household and you tend to disagree just a little bit with what he has to say, you might as well just not say it at all because
Might as
it's
well get
his
the
way
fuck
or
out.
the highway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I really appreciate like your dad being able to openly talk to you about that.
Well, it's a really rare parent.
Yeah,
trait.
and most
Yeah.
parents don't. It's, this is my opinion. Here's kind of how our household does it,
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and typically in most households, the father is the breadwinner, and, what's, he's the one that wears the pants,
Mm.
and that's in a, stereotypical family household. And
Traditional.
that's a
That'd
good
be
word.
considered.
Traditional
Yeah.
50s household.
Yes,
Yeah.
and, the
Don't
mom.
even have to say 50s, just
Traditional household.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
honestly.
mom
The amount
follows
of
suit
single
with that.
mothers these days, though, I don't know. That
Yeah,
might be
and
changing
that is-
culturally.
that's not
trained.
traditional if it's new, though.
No, yeah, okay. Calling it traditional, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I see
but-
what
yeah,
you're
we'll leave
saying.
it there, yeah.
So, but just that the family, the parents have one viewpoint, so the kids just, they inherently pick that up. That's just what they do.
It's just not how my household
Yeah,
works.
and I love that. That's totally different perspective that I've just never seen before, that, kids have their own voice, and it's not the parent that goes, just don't think like that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's your
that is
fucking
not-
dumb, honey.
Yeah, that conversation never happened.
That's great. I love that.
And that goes for both sides of the aisle, too. I mean, and what I often see is when there's a politics flip in a kid, it's typically because whatever the parents are, they're way too zealous about their views.
Either that or they followed the ideology and it failed.
Oof.
So they're
What?
incapable.
Yeah, well, so on the right, a lot of the time you see actual religious fundamentalism. And if something happens that makes them disbelieve in God, they start leaning left. On the left, their religion is the state. Their religion and their faith is that collectivism will. On the far radical left, I'm not saying every liberal believes this. That's a way overgeneralization. On the far left, it's if we support the collective, you support yourself to a certain
Well, it's
extent.
an investment. They see it as an investment in community, and to an extent, I think that's really noble. I mean, like you said,
from an empathy standpoint, it is. Yeah.
Well, it's part of what you said with the Jordan Peterson quote. You clean your room, and then you clean your house, and then you clean your neighborhood. And then you start cleaning your city, and then your state, and then your country, and then the world.
The problem with collectivism is you start with cleaning the world.
Right.
And that top-down doesn't work, man.
I agree.
Doesn't work.
It's
You
all
start
about
small.
Yeah.
It's all about where you start, and it's less about. I've noticed, at least, I'm not trying to derail this into politics. It's less about what your end game is, and more about how you go about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, specifically to stay with politics for a minute.
My name, motherfucker.
Oh fuck. Okay, RyGuy specifically. RyGuy specifically, he was very liberal.
Oh yeah.
For most of our friendship, he was, and it's after he started getting into entrepreneurship and developing things on his own, and I think after the state fucking failed him, that he became more conservative, and when the state became anti-Christian, I'd say.
I don't know, man. It was just kind of like a realization where you just you start to live things and do things on your own, and you don't just listen to what everybody feeds you.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to do your own research, and then you start to build your own opinion. And that's kind of how it happened for me. Was like I just started living my life, hence opened my eyes. I started living my own life and seeing things how I wanted to see them, and how it was given to me, and how the facts were presented to me, and I drew it that way. You look at all the shit, and people are so, some people are just so gullible to just listen to what they're told, and not just to question everything. I mean, that's what we're taught. I mean, as much as people don't believe it in private school.
You touched on how facts are presented. That's a huge part.
I mean, in private school, as much as people disagree with this, you're taught, or most of people don't believe this is what's happened, but in private school with Catholics and everything, you're taught to question authority.
Oh, yeah. Well,
as weird as that sounds,
here, yeah.
You're taught. I'm not kidding. I took 8 theology classes when I was there in high school, and you're taught to question authority because you're supposed to have questions about your faith. You're supposed to question what's above you. You're supposed to ask questions so you can figure this shit out on your own. You can't just be spoon-fed it, or else you're going to disagree with it and throw it out the window.
Well,
you have to question everything, or else there's going to be no sense of true understanding.
I think in your private school that might have been how it worked.
That's how it's supposed to be. If people aren't being taught that way, then that's wrong.
The richest private school in the area, the one I went to in elementary school, complete opposite.
This is the only way.
I was
there
I get
for 3
that.
Years. There are some people, there are some teachers who are like that.
It wasn't an individual teacher, it was the system.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to make an overgeneralization and say all private schools are that way, right? But that also means we can't generalize that all private schools are wanting you to be open-minded.
Now,
I had teachers treat me like I was the Antichrist or something, dude.
Well, you are, but yeah.
Well, to them I really was, yeah.
Well, dude, if you honestly think about it, though, there are some people who are so full into their faith that they think that's the only way that it works.
Well, it's not just
it's normal.
I've had a teacher is not supposed to be able to question theology.
Okay,
I
get that. You're supposed to teach them in the right in the quote right direction.
On Ash Wednesday, I thought I was getting fucking introduced to for people who don't know, Ash Wednesday is a tradition in Catholicism where they take burnt ashes mixed with a little bit of liquid so it sticks, and they make the sign of the cross on your forehead, and you're supposed to wear that out in public. It's a sign that you're proud to be Catholic.
So if you've ever seen The Lion King, when they do that shit on Simba and they make this
yeah,
that is
basically
what
a whole
Ash
church
Wednesday
does that. I'm not Catholic.
It's the start of Lent. It's the start of Lent.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not Catholic anymore, obviously. I definitely don't follow their views enough to be considered mainstream Catholic, that's for sure. And I don't believe in any of the tradition. Yeah, I'm not fucking Catholic. It's that simple. I'm a deist is what I would call it.
I mean, but that's funny though, because you started going to private school. I mean, not funny, but you started going to private school. Ironic. Mm-hmm. You started going to private school,
And as we were talking about all this thing about family, is that family initially instills you in some sort of religion, some sort of faith, or some sort of lifestyle.
Well, that's where
they bestow upon
they
you a
bestow
set of values.
that's
of
where
what
me
they
and my-
believe, and then after, or what they think you should do
To that certain time.
to a certain extent. Yeah.
You take suit and you decide what.
Yes.
Like, and that's the same thing going back to you. You know, like with football.
Yeah.
You know, your parents wanted you to do football at a young age, so they put you in it. That for me, it was soccer. You know, my parents just like, oh, that's great. He'll do soccer, and if he wants to keep doing it, he'll keep doing it. And that's just it. A parent doesn't force you; they let you till you're, you know, what's a good age that a kid starts thinking from 8 years old,
Well,
10
it's
years
like-
old, and says, hey, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
I don't fucking like
I get
this.
tired of playing left bench. Let me
Yeah.
not play this anymore. You know?
I guess for me it was bad because my parents cared less, and it's not. I don't have bad parents.
Mhm.
It's not. They cared less about my temporary feelings, and more. My parents had me too young. It economically crippled them. They both had to drop out of college because of my existence, or because of my conception. That's a better way to put that.
Wow, that got really sad
Yeah,
really
yeah.
fast. But
Yeah.
it's fine.
Because of my
Well,
fucking
it's not like it's not like my parents have ever
I
held
exist,
that.
therefore happiness
Yeah.
is impossible.
They never held that over my head or anything. They never held that
Fuck.
over my head. My parents have always told me they're very happy that I exist. Right? Just getting that disclaimer out there. But they were like, this is an opportunity for him to go to a really good college for free. Because I've always been a very big human being. And they're like, this guy's going to be a fucking monster in football. And he's going to... And I come from a line of really good football players, too. Me and my grandfather both participated in our state's all-star game. And we were both college recruits, and fun fact, we both dropped out and came back home. And my dad would have, honestly, he probably would have followed the same route, but he broke his back in high school.
Damn.
Yeah. And to them, and to almost everybody in my family, football and sports, if you're good at it, is an opportunity. And it's suffer temporarily to earn wealth later, to earn comfort later. And they were so afraid of me putting myself in a position where I'm as poor or as financially crippled or with a kid that I can't feed type of shit. That's what they're so afraid of.
They wanted to give you what they didn't have.
They really did. And that's why I don't resent them.
Yeah, because
for
that is
making
the
me
goal
do that.
very apparently
And
we talked about.
It's the ultimate hypocrisy in the way I was raised. I've always had free range. I'm a free range kid. I've always been able to make my own decisions almost from the get-go, but I was forced to do this. And that's just, I mean, in some ways, my dad's probably proud of that. And in other ways, he's probably pissed because he's like, fuck, I fucked it up.
It's my fucking fault.
Yeah. Yeah. But a parent has a lot of jobs to do, and it's really hard for him to do all of them.
There's so many factors that go into it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And
It's hard for
you
them to do all
can't
of
you
them.
can't really sit here and judge them until you're in the same shoes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know, as much
absolutely.
as you know, I don't know, I can't speak for all of us, but as much as, you know, myself or, you know, want to sit here and say, oh, I'm going to raise my kid different,
Yeah.
or I'm going to do it different. Like, you don't know. And this could go for anything. You don't know until you're in that person's shoes. So you have all the factors thrown at you in your face, and you have all these things going on.
Yeah.
You can't sit here and say anything until you've been through the same thing that they've been through. And at the end of the day, that probably will never happen. You will never be in their same boat. You'll
Yeah,
never
it'll
be
never
in
be
that
the
same.
total
You'll never
same.
be
That's
in
not
that
how life
same
works.
same
Yeah.
instance. And you have to take a step back and really just think about, like, is it really fair for me to judge them?
Something else that is hard is, like, I know things I definitely want to do differently,
Yeah.
but it's like the way I've ended up, I'm kind of fairly happy with.
Mm.
So it's like originally what I think immediately is, if my kids want to play sports, foster that. But if they don't want to play it, I can't. I don't know.
Can't
if
force it.
I don't know if I could force it because I was forced to.
Mm.
It'd be like killing myself, dude. But I learned some shit from it. It took 20 years, but now I'm disagreeable and ambitious enough to go after what I want.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why I struggle with the existence of a God to a certain extent. And I've never said it to my parents this way, but part of the reason I developed such bad anxiety issues in my teen years was because from the get-go they told me that football's my future. It's the key to open the door to my future. And they put me in front of a football coach, and they didn't say it like this, but the way it came off, that coach is now your God.
Yeah.
It was. That's really what they are, especially when you're scared of them or they
Yeah.
dislike you. They are your God. And It's if you have a good day or a bad day, they determine it. Like that. In order to please God in that situation, you have to make a sacrifice, metaphorically speaking. I'm talking really metaphorical. So if I sacrificed via effort, good performance, and showing up, I might have a good day.
Yeah.
Just how back in the day, very long time ago, ancient times, sacrifice a goat, you might have a good harvest that year. It was almost the exact same parallels. And I developed this problem. I stopped having the ability to look people in the eye. Because, I mean, if God existed, I don't think you'd look him in the eyes when you talk to him, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
You would look him in the eye. And I've really dwelled on this because it's like, why does every football I give so much effort and I devote so much time because my parents made me. And I really acted like I cared, right? I mean, I did care. I really acted like I wanted to be there. And they could always see through it. They always hated me for some reason in every situation. And I think it's because I could never look them in the eye. I was terrified of them. I could never have a bonded, good coaching experience because they were divine in the worst way possible as well. They were terrifying. And now, for the first time in my life, I realize that's a problem. I'm trying to look people in the eye now when I talk to them. I've always struggled with it because of anxiety problems. And if you don't look people in the eye, especially if they give you orders about something like your manager at work, if you don't look them in the eye, they'll take advantage of you. They see it as weakness immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've learned that the hard way recently, and I've really been trying to fix that. And I don't think my parents realized the implication of putting me at the whim of an imperfect human being and making them my God, of what that does.
I think everything in life happens for a reason. Other people might not believe that. But all of these factors, the coaches that you had, your parents, your friends, they all are helping you figure out who you are as a person. You know, you go through these coaches and you start to, you can never look them in the eye. But that's a sign. Whether it be a red flag, whatever, that's a sign that you need to start working on yourself and looking at people in the eye and overcoming your anxiety. Mm-hmm. There's so much shit that goes on in everybody's life, right? There's so many things that happen. And there's so many people that have a huge role and influence in that. But all of that plays a role in how you develop as a person. Yeah. And as difficult as those times may be, as difficult as BraceFace's times may be, as difficult as times, Jesus Christ, Badger's times may be. Yeah. It all plays a role into the development of yourself. And that's what I believe. Well, I think that everything's extremely important, and you have to take notice of those little things that happen.
I wanted to touch on this when you brought this up as part of your private school education, questioning authority. That actually is education and leadership. Leadership is knowing how to follow at first. Mm-hmm. You have to know how to be a good follower, period, before you can ever begin to lead. Because you have to know what to expect from the people that you later will come to lead. And you have to know how to coach them into that role. And what that also teaches you at the same time is when you're going through that training and you have leaders above you, you can spot their mistakes, you can identify where they're going wrong, and when you come into those positions later on, you know where to pick up the ball and start running. Yeah. And that goes into your coach thing too. What you had is that you had a background where you weren't taught to be a leader, or at least you weren't encouraged to adopt any of those traits. And you were looking at, you were taught from a system where you were supposed to idolize your leaders, not picture yourself as one.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
and that changes your entire perception. That all of a sudden, that puts the top of the mountain from up here, figuratively all the way up here.
Yeah. Well, it puts it in the clouds, somewhere you can't reach.
Somewhere you can't see.
Yeah.
Life's crazy, dude.
Quite literally can't see.
And I think that affects a lot of people. And all of us also probably have had our moments where we have moments of weakness, where we don't necessarily approach things eyes locked and head first the way that we should.
Yeah.
We should be looking at everybody in the eyes. We should be questioning what they're saying. We should be evaluating what they're saying. And we should be deciding for ourselves whether or not maybe they know what they're talking about. Maybe they have the mark of a good leader. I'll listen to this guy. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have no clue what they're talking about. Maybe they have no clue how to lead themselves, much less a group of people.
Right.
And that's a part of familial education as well as systemic education that nobody likes to talk about. Leadership isn't just leading other people. Leadership is leading yourself. It's making sure that you can accomplish your own goals.
You gotta clean your own room.
Right.
You gotta love yourself.
And that's not some people have that, and some people have that come naturally. Some people have to have that, like myself, be taught. And for those who come from families and backgrounds where that is taught, that's an insane blessing.
Some people, when you wake up in the morning, have to know that they have to slay a dragon that day to go to bed that night.
And they'll do it. They'll motivate themselves. However, they'll go through heaven and hell.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that whatever they set out to get done gets done.
Yeah.
And they'll do it not only just because it's fun or whatever, but because there's a goal, there's a benefit, and also in a good leader's case, there's a benefit to somebody else.